Hi, my name's Kingsley Taylor. I am a 20-year veteran of the digital advertising world. I've worked at numerous agencies across the world from, London in the UK, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, at agencies like, Ogilvy, Digitas, and the Publicis Group. And I've been fortunate to work on such amazing brands as Coca-Cola, Nestle, Qualcomm, Sephora, just to name a few. But today, there's one thing that I really want to have a chat about, and that is brand and performance. They have been treated as two separate entities for too long, and it's starting to hurt business. So how do we get here? So for the past 2 decades, marketing departments have been split into two discrete groups. You have your sales driving teams and your brand building teams. Your sales driving teams are obsessed with customer acquisition costs and lifetime consumer value. And the brand team is obsessed about the brand and the raw emotion that those brands build. And the reality is, both of those are incredibly important, but treating them as two separate things is starting to hurt business. I mean, let's look at what, Nike's been going through in the press recently. They drilled down far too much into the transactional side of the business, and they forgot who they were. They were a champion of the sports person within all of us. And they started to lose that and focused on driving sales, launching more and more SKUs, and diluting the market and ultimately diluting their brand. Digital has quite honestly changed everything. It continues to blur the line between the digital experience and a transactional moment. And because of this, consumer attention has become incredibly fragmented. In the past, you would be, as a family, interested in one particular TV show that you would all watch together at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. And ultimately, brand builders could buy advertising at that particular time and know that they had attracted those families that are watching that show. That doesn't happen anymore because you can watch content on every platform, from your cell phone to your laptop to your TV, at work, digital screens out in the wild. Fundamentally, that fragmentation is really changing everything. And the other part of that is once you move from a more analog way of consuming information to a digital way, what you start to bring about is an ability to measure everything. And that has good things and bad things. If you can measure everything, it feels that you feel as though you can ultimately control everything. And sometimes you become too focused on measurement. And again, that can affect the relationship between brand and sales. There are a number of different things that you need to consider. And I think the first one is, as I mentioned before, digital is infinitely measurable, but brand marketers and performance marketers measure two different things. So how do we unify those elements of measurement and start to bring them together under one roof? Other parts are, look, we've all seen this as agency side marketers. You go to a client's office and the brand team is on one floor and the sales team and the marketing team are on another floor. They have different cultures, they have different bosses, they operate in different worlds. How do you bring those teams together and how do you get them to collaborate as one group? The third part, beyond integration and measurement, is creative. Ultimately, creative over the years has been designed to spark emotion and build brand love on the brand side. And on the performance side, at the bottom of the funnel, It's been there to drive someone to act in the moment. If they're thinking about purchasing something, to get them to buy it now. How can we take the best of both worlds? How can we make sure that, that marketing communication that's driving you to buy something is also designed in a beautiful way that helps you build an emotional connection with the brand? So I guess the takeaway there is that, everything matters. Every single touch point that you have with consumers should reflect your brand and should be building upon your brand. So number 3, like I said, smarter creative. Number 4, technology. Technology can start to bring these two together. With AI-driven tools that can build marketing assets more quickly and at a higher quality, and building them on brand, to measurement tools that can flatten, the funnel and start to measure across sales and brand tactics. This is a really good question. You have to think to yourself, well, why haven't we done it to date? These things are not easy. Companies operate in silos, and it's not really a negative thing to say. It's just how companies have been built. They have structures and processes in place and ways of working. And really, senior marketers, CMOs, CEOs, they have to start thinking about how can they break down those silos? How can they bring these teams together? How can they operationalize the harmony of brand and performance? And I think one way of doing that is to try not to boil the ocean. Don't try and change everything overnight. Just start with one campaign. Let's say, for example, you're preparing to launch a product this summer. Why don't you try to use that opportunity to test uniting brand and sales together and set up metrics that unite brand and sales together? So number 1, begin with one campaign. Number 2, start to get people to rally around this new way of working. So start to build internal support. Identify champions in, the sales and performance team and someone in the brand team that can be the bridge that can connect the two together and challenge them to drive that connection. And number 3 is, as you start to think about scaling this new way of working, you've got campaigns in market, you've got people collaborating together, you've got a measurement framework that is delivering across the entire funnel. You need to start thinking about scaling thoughtfully. Don't try and say, hey, I've done it. Let's blow this out to our entire, set of marketing through the year. Start to add channels on a one-by-one basis, and try to see what works and try to see what doesn't work. Ultimately, we humans learn through trial and error, and marketing is a little bit the same. It's not really quite an exact science yet. So slowly scale out the model and slowly bring on board, more people as this way of thinking, this brand performance way of thinking scales. Look, here's the deal. The future of marketing is not about, choosing between, do I want to build my brand or do I want to drive sales? Because you have to do both. If you're just focused on driving sales, you're ultimately only ever converting people who are in the market to buy your product. So you're never growing the size of the market. You're not growing your brand. If you're only focused on, building the brand, sure, you're driving a lot of awareness, you're getting people interested in your product, but you're not necessarily giving them the incentive to buy your product. And let's remember, the market is now saturated with thousands of different options for consumers, and consumers have got the technology to go and find all those different options. So you have to bring these two together. You cannot deliver one without the other. They very much need to be friends, and you need to start thinking about how to bring them together. So really the question is not one or the other. The question is, how do I, as a senior marketer, start to think about uniting these two together? What are the steps that I need to take?